So over the past week or so, I hadn't really planned on posting all that much Fallout 76. I was taking a bit of a break from it, focusing on content from some of the other Fallout games. And actually, as I was midway through editing and finalizing one of those videos, Bethesda posted a very interesting update, or their plans for the future of this game. And that update was enough for me to stop what I was doing immediately and actually start working on this video. As basically they detail some of the major steps they are taking to improve Fallout 76, and this time around it seems like this will be a genuine and actual improvement. So in this video I want to mainly focus on that, but also talk about several of the other things that have happened or news that has come out around this game. Starting first, one thing I just wanted to mention right off the bat, many of you guys may have seen my video a couple of days ago on the moldy helmet situation with Fallout 76. That was another video I wasn't planning on making, but I kind of felt forced because so many other people were botching the coverage of that so badly. So I wanted to actually provide you with the outlet for getting accurate information. And if you're not familiar, basically there were some helmets sold for Fallout 76 this past summer, different from the Power Armor Edition helmets, these being sold through GameStop, but they were recalled because there was a mold issue in them. On the original listing for this recall, it was actually detailed how about 20,000 of these units were affected. And I was kind of astonished at this number. I thought it meant that around 20,000 of these had actually been sold, and at $150 a pop, that would be $3 million in revenue from these helmets. Well, that's actually not the case. To nobody's surprise, they didn't actually manage to sell 20,000 of these in just a couple of months, but rather of the 20,000 they manufactured, only 32 were sold. So if you managed to be one of the 32, you were contacted by GameStop, and it basically seems like that they were planning to sell all 20,000, or at least trying, but they didn't actually get that far when the mold outbreak did begin, and then they recalled all the manufactured units without them going on sale, except for those 32 that people managed to snag. I feel like now if you actually manage to get one of those 32, it could kind of be this weirdly cool collector's item. But either way, I just wanted to provide an update on that story. Outside of that, one of the other major big updates around Fallout 76 in-game is actually with its survival mode. Fallout 76's survival mode is one of those things that sounded really good on paper, but in execution it just never really landed. The mode was never super popular. As of late, it saw a resurgence in popularity, mainly because the servers were way more stable, so people are trying to complete the vault raids on that mode. But just last week, Bethesda actually detailed how they're actually killing survival mode, at least for the time being. They mentioned how now that Nuclear Winter, the Battle Royale mode, is out, offering its own competitive flavor and having its biggest update yet on the horizon, they decided they're going to disable the survival mode beta on October 1st. They mentioned how as of right now, they're really focusing on Wastelanders, but after it launches, they'll revisit the feedback that they have received around PvP in this game and try and find other ways to incorporate it. So this news honestly isn't all that surprising. The mode didn't see many updates. It was largely dead. There's a few people on there completing challenges or trying to do events in a less laggy setting, but otherwise I don't really know of anyone that consistently played just that mode. I'm sure you're out there, it just wasn't all that common. Although I do really hope they give this another go. They don't seem to explicitly say survival mode will make a return, just that other PvP avenues will be explored, but even all the way back when survival mode was discussed by Todd Howard, I think some of the stuff he mentioned sound really promising, like doing seasonal or even monthly changes on the mode, giving it a slightly different game mode, changing up the game rules a little bit, maybe requiring new characters upon login, but then maybe there's some kind of weird TDM or PvP event of some kind. I think just making it kind of a mode that they messed around with periodically could make it fun and interesting from time to time, rather than just having it be this kind of stagnant mode that's always there. But alas, we'll probably find out more in 2020. And actually a lot of the stuff we're going to be talking about in this video is the future plans for Fallout 76, most of which coming in 2020. But hey, maybe you like Fallout 76 and you don't feel like waiting for new content. As of today, likely just a few hours before you're watching this video, Meat Week actually returned to Fallout 76. Meat Week was a limited time event we had earlier in this summer. Over the past few weeks, we've had Project Clean Appalachia going on in Fallout 76. Project Clean Appalachia is basically just a community set goal by Bethesda. The first time around, it was kill a certain number of Scorch Beasts. The initial reward with Meat Week returning for 3 days added after 100,000 was hit, but then several stretch goals were added, so now there's a variety of rewards you could claim for free on the Atomic Shop because over 600,000 Scorch Beasts were killed by the community, which is actually just insane. That is a lot of freaking Scorch Beasts. So as a result of that, Meat Week starting today will be available until October 3rd, and following that we'll have the task of killing a certain amount of Scorched. But looking ahead, Bethesda also details a ton of changes coming to this game over the next few months and even into 2020. And a lot of these are big. Bethesda describes how right now their big focus is working on the giant Wastelanders update, but that's not their only focus. They mentioned that they'll be talking more about Wastelanders and future content as it gets closer to release, which hypothetically is just a few weeks away, but here they're actually looking at some of the features they'll add in 2020. One of the first ones they list is a private test server. They mention how it's currently in the works and they're shooting to have it out at some point in 2020. They don't actually give concrete release windows or even kind of a time frame like they do with some of these other things, making me think it might not even be at the earliest part of 2020. And really all this is doing is serving as confirmation that this is coming. If you're not familiar with how a PTS will function in other games, basically it's a server that you can connect to, sometimes it's invite only, that will get to screen updates ahead of time. So like with the Wastelanders update, it would go up earlier on the private test server in almost a beta form. Then people will play it, try and break things, and report those bugs back to Bethesda. So when it goes wide on the public servers that everyone connects to, there's way less bugs in that update. Fallout 76 has had a long problem with very buggy updates. A new update will come out, fix a few things, but then break several other things. It's a major problem with this game that has been there since the start. A private test server could be a very permanent solution to this. It obviously will affect and change the way updates are handled and delivered, but it could be a cool thing. They also mentioned how they're adding perk loadouts into Fallout 76, and this one is actually confirmed for early 2020. This isn't quite as big as a private test server, but it certainly is a long requested feature, pretty much since release. In Fallout 76 right now, you can just change around your perk cards at will, but it's really tedious. Typically you have a lot of perk cards unlocked, especially at later levels, and even though 95% of the time it doesn't make sense to have lockpicking on your character, a lot of people just leave it there because they don't want to go through and enable it and disable it every time they have to pick a lock, using up valuable perk card slots. This has the potential to change and fix all of that, especially if you could actually assign perk loadouts to certain hotkeys. There are actually some mods already doing this for Fallout 76, and although pretty good, it still is fairly far removed. It definitely could be a better system, especially if done first party by Bethesda, but hey, there's actually more. They also confirmed that multi-factor authentication is coming to this game. This basically being two-factor authentication that you've probably heard about with other games. Like perhaps when you log in on a new computer, it actually requires you to input a code that is texted to you. They mentioned how this one's actually fairly far along and probably will be enabled before the end of this year, and this will be big. With online games like Fallout 76, where you have users consistently buying things from the shop, increasing the value of their individual accounts, or even just having some of those very valuable in-game items, it really increases the incentive for other people to try and get access to your accounts illegally and steal some of those items or steal the account overall. This has happened to a couple of people in this game, losing some super valuable stuff. Multi-factor authentication is almost a must for online games like this, and it's another great one to see getting added. The long-awaited legendary player system is reportedly now coming in Q1 of 2020. This is actually like the second delay to the system. Originally it was kind of described how it'd be part of the summer DLC, then at QuakeCon they mentioned it'd be pushed back to Wastelanders coming this fall, but then now here we are hearing early 2020. In the past they described how more or less the system will work where every 50 levels you'll be able to take a super good perk for one of your special stats, and then that perk will carry over even when you create new characters. It sounds cool, but it really to me seemed like one of those things where it sounded good on paper, but as far as the exact implementation goes, they're having some trouble with it. Personally, I think this is fine. We should have plenty of new content with Wastelanders, so I'm not too upset to see this getting pushed back a few months. They mentioned that social menu fixes are coming. These have been here for literally months now. Actually, since the release of Fallout 76, I've had this issue where just at certain points, I can't actually scroll my mouse onto the side of the screen where the social menu is, even when the social menu isn't open. But one of the other big issues is there's actually just sometimes an inability to accept friend requests, accept team invites. The fix for this is a pretty simple restart of the game, or sometimes just disconnecting from the server and reconnecting, but naturally that's pretty frustrating. When you're trying to set up a squad and 2-3 people from the squad have to restart their games to get everything working, it can get a little annoying, and this is not a new problem. These have been around for months now. They mentioned how they're planning fixes for this on PC shortly, as well as just overall fixes for the social menu in general, so that's definitely good, but even if they released that fix today, it would be long overdue and something that should have came out already. So as much as I want to praise Bethesda for this one, to me at least it certainly feels like it's too late. I'm happy it's coming, but it should have came earlier. And then finally they also mentioned additional public event improvements. Recently they released an update to the game, making it so public events are now these very community focused and centered events. You'll get a notification when they're on a certain server, you could fast travel to them for free. These are particularly cool, but it has made it so events that are considered public events and in this category are now way rarer. It's much harder to find these on servers because only one public event will be active at a time, and after you complete one, there's a cooldown before a next one will be chosen at random. In this, they mentioned that the cooldown in between one public event and the next will be lowered, but also they're planning on adding other things like performance-based loot. So if you do more in that event, you'll get rewarded better. It's not just about getting at least one hit on every creature you see. And they explicitly mentioned changes to how looting legendaries will work with that. The shortening of the cooldowns will be coming in patch 14, while the kind of phase 2 of public event improvements should be coming early next year. And then at the end, they actually mentioned two major new features that they plan on adding to this game: a text chat for PC players and the option to rejoin a server when you're kicked or dropped from that server. They don't have a current timeline on when this will be coming out, but they mention it's something they're looking into. It seems pretty confirmed by the way they're wording this, but it also seems like maybe it could be pretty far away. But either way, taking that all together, those are some massive new changes coming to this game. And I would say one of the big parts about that is a lot of those features are huge quality of life improvements, but also things that will just make the game better. Like the public test server being probably one of the biggest ones, that should just make updates better overall. Things like a text chat have literally been requests since day one of the beta. So it seems good that Bethesda is finally listening. One of the downsides around this is definitely that a lot of this isn't till 2020, some of it early 2020, but some of it not. Some of it may not be until a few months into 2020, which is still pretty far away. It is unfortunate that we're not seeing some of this content before Wastelanders, but at the very least, I'm happy we're getting it at any point. It seems like for a lot of these, Bethesda is finally listening to some of these long withstanding complaints around the game. Outside of that, there's also been some new additions to the Atomic Shop, a new Raider bundle, one of those things that a lot of people have been waiting on for a very long time. I want to share it because I know people have been asking about it, so here it is if you want to pick that up. But otherwise, yeah, this is a pretty big update around the future of this game. Between the Wastelanders update adding in a lot of those core features people have been asking for, and then of course all of these quality of life improvements, it seems like year 2 of Fallout 76 may be when things actually start getting good. I wouldn't be shocked if we see Wastelanders kick off on the game's 1-year anniversary this November 14th, and with all these additional updates in mind, it seems like that might really kick off the relaunch of this game. Bethesda making a lot of those long requested feature changes. So let me know what you think about all of this down below. Obviously at this point, Bethesda has used up a lot of their goodwill among fans, so I think it's pretty understandable for people to be skeptical around how well the implementation of some of these features will be, or even if they'll do it in time to kind of save the game. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below, but with all that being said, I thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.
Got him down.